Back on the Peter King podcast. Happy to be joined by Tennessee coach Mike Vrabel. Obviously, Mike Vrabel and his Titans made a lot of noise last January in the playoffs, particularly at New England and at Baltimore. Two of the memorable playoff wins that any franchise has had. So, Mike, I guess I'll start off by asking you, when you sort of look back on January and everybody looked at your team and said, oh my gosh, these are tremendous upsets. I remember seeing you, especially after New England, you were not remotely surprised. And I take it that was the case with all three games that you played in January.
Well, Peter, thanks for having me. First off, our players were very, they were prepared. Our staff did a great job getting our players ready. And, those games are a long way away. That's in the past. And we're going to need to continue to find ways to play like that and execute like that and play complementary football, get turnovers like we did, play great situationally. Those are all things that we're going to have to take from those games. But the success is not going to just automatically carry over. So there's a lot of things that we can take and continue to teach from.
There's so many interesting things about your team. I want to start with Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill last year had the highest quarterback rating in the NFL in 7 years. And I think most people were surprised at how well he played and how consistently well he played. Give me an idea about Ryan Tannehill's approach, and particularly his approach coming into this year with trying to continue to play at that level.
Well, that's what this league is about trying to have and find continued success. I think he has a great grasp of what we're trying to do. I don't think it's a secret that we're going to try to, be sound, be fundamentally sound, play with great effort. But we were able to deliver the ball, hit some big plays down the field, be very accurate. I think that was the thing that probably what was the biggest reason for his success and our success is the accuracy, throwing into tight windows, throwing on time. And so now we move on and we move forward as everybody else does and continue to grasp our offense and work, to take it to the next level.
His accuracy, completing 70% last year, was significantly higher from his Miami days. Do you have a theory? Was it your offensive approach? What's your theory?
I try not to work, deal in theory. We like to deal in reality and make sure that, we're giving him everything that he needs from a scheme standpoint, from a coaching standpoint, from a fundamental standpoint. And obviously the guys around him also contribute, in a large way to, the success of the quarterback. So all those things have to happen for quarterbacks to function and be successful. So that's what we're doing now. That's what we started doing is going out and practicing and working with speed. I think it's really hard to just go one-on-ones over and over and over in the off season because the timing's not there. There's no pass rush. There's not as many bodies. It's not man or zone. It's they're out there running one-on-ones and they know it's man coverage. So these are all the great reasons why we practice.
I asked Bruce Arians the other day, what's the thing that the pandemic did to you that you think hurts your preparedness more than anything else? And I really thought he was going to say something about, well, we're changing quarterbacks and, and all this stuff. But he said it's about 400 reps per young player that we will not have a chance to see. And so we won't have a chance to judge those players really, he said, kind of fairly. And I wonder, if I asked you the same question, what would you say is the biggest disadvantage, in essence, to not having an off-season program?
I mean, it's obviously the reps. I think it's about, building a team, players being around each other, players being around coaches, getting in the routine of what this training camp and ultimately the season is going to look like. The team meetings, what those look like, how we practice. The reps are critical. John and I's job is to evaluate the players that we have on an even field. They're all given opportunities. They have to be aware enough to take advantage of the opportunity and realize when they do indeed have an opportunity for a bunch of different reasons. A guy's out, maybe a guy's taking some rest, a guy leaves for a couple plays, whatever it may be, that there's opportunities. And those players that didn't get those reps in the spring have to be aware enough to understand that this now is their opportunity to take advantage of
it. I want to ask you a couple of things about your offense and then one thing about your defense. I think last year, toward the end of the year, everybody started to say that, this is a more of a multifaceted offense than just because everybody, I think I was among the people who said, this to me is, as Derrick Henry goes, so go the Titans. But then you were able to throw the ball well enough, that you weren't obviously just a one-dimensional team. And I wonder, do you attribute that to just general philosophy of wanting to be able to be very multiple on the offensive side? Do you attribute some of that to Arthur Smith? I mean, tell me how you saw your offense develop last year, especially down the stretch.
Well, I think that they started to, including the staff and Arthur. I mean, I think we have fantastic staff. I love the relationship they have with each other, but I love how they, continue to teach and develop and inspire their players to have confidence to go out and do their job. But I think that they started playing with they started building confidence and gaining confidence and playing with confidence and practicing with confidence. And then in turn, you start to build this momentum that, you can do some really cool things in offense. And I love the versatility of it. I love the ability to be under center and then also to run plays in the gun, or, have plays that, that we see, or their game plan type plays that we put in that, we feel like are going to give us a chance. But Derrick is a large part of our offense, and he's a special player. He's a unique player. He's a talented player. But we have some guys that we want to get the ball to, and it all starts up front. I think that group is continuing. Offensive line is continuing to build that confidence now on the practice field that hopefully we can head into the season with some momentum.
I thought it was really interesting last year, down the stretch, and also coming into this year as well. You strike me as a coach who really wants to be able to dictate to the other team, both on offense and defense. And everybody knew when you played New England and Baltimore that they were going to get a heavy dose of Derrick Henry, and people just couldn't stop him. As a coach and as somebody who has been sort of, born and raised in classic power football, but not only power football, but I wonder, is that the kind of football that you really like to play?
Well, I think that's the essence of football. There's a necessary physicality that has to go along with it. I think there's an identity to your football team. I think that when we looked back and I looked and I saw the success that teams had historically in the playoffs, they were teams that were able to run the football, that were able to get some turnovers because sometimes you're playing outside. Sometimes the elements aren't great. You're playing football in January, and they're not always inside. And it was an easy message to explain to our team when you looked at 2018, for example, and you looked at the different games that were played, and whether it was New England and the Chiefs, and the Chiefs ran the ball for one week against the Colts, but they couldn't run it against the Patriots, and they lost. And so there was a lot of parallels to those things, and the teams that got turnovers and took care of the ball were the ones that were there in the end. You look back at the Rams and how they were able to run the ball in the playoffs when they needed to. Ultimately didn't, and then fell short in the Super Bowl. But that was what our going on the road. We had those road games and talked to them about being able to control the tempo, be able to control the ball, and run it, and be able to get some turnovers. So that's where we're going to try to pick up at when we get back to playing.
Mike, one other thing about your defense, and you'll have to update me on this if I'm wrong, but obviously Dean Pease retired, and how are you going to account for that role now? You do not have a defensive coordinator in title right now, is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, we've had some new additions. Jim Haslett's our inside linebacker coach. Anthony Midget's our secondary coach, and I told the team, and I've told everybody here, that when I'm not in there, when I'm not in those defensive meeting rooms for whatever reason, Shane Bowen will be the voice in there. He's done a great job throughout camp, just as we get started here. But we're going to be inclusive in our game planning. Dean was great for us for 2 years, and he deserves to retire. And we have to, like every year, we have to keep moving on. There's so much change in the National Football League every year with coaches and players, and this year's no different.
Mike, do you have much of a gut feeling as you sit here right now whether everything that's being done about COVID is going to be enough for you guys to get your season in?
I don't have any gut feeling. I have trust in the process. I have trust in the protocols. I have faith that we'll continue to carry ourselves with responsibility that we owe our teammates, our coaches, and then their families. I think there's a responsibility that we owe the game and to do everything we can to stay safe. I guess I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that we're able to follow these guidelines, and the way that our building's set up and everybody else's building will be what we need to be able to play games.
Mike, I'll end with this. The Bill Parcells used to have a saying. He would say in every training camp, guys, you never pick up one year where you left off the next year. Every year is an individual entity. And you sound like, from a couple of your answers here, that you don't want to live in last January. You want to live. You want to live in this August. So.
Yeah, I mean, listen. Here's where we were. We were 2-4, and we can learn from it. But we were also 4-4 last year, and I stood in front of the team, and I went back and I said, guys, I'm going to read you some records here as it relates to the season before, about midway through, and there were teams that were 7-2 that finished 8-7 and missed the playoffs. There were teams that were 4-4 that finished 11-5 and made the playoffs. It's a crazy league. Each week is so vitally important that you can't let too many get away. But you just have to put yourself in a position that the time that November comes around, that we're playing meaningful games.
Mike, I'm going to cheat and ask you one other quick thing. You're obviously a huge college football fan.
I'm only a fan of one team, and
you're a fan of your son's team at Boston College.
Boston College, that's it.
Yeah.
I'm not that big of a college football fan.
Yeah. All right. So tell me, you look and see what's going on with some conferences canceling, being, so familiar with Ohio State, what it must be like in Columbus these days with not playing football this fall. What is it like to see that for you? Is it just immense sadness? What's your feeling?
No, it's not. I'm focused on a few things: my family, this football team, and obviously, Tyler and Boston College. And I said this today, that I have so much faith in their leadership and Jeff Hafley and those administrators there, that they're taking care of those players, especially, Tyler, and how they're working their protocols and their testing procedures. So
is your son happy to be playing?
He's very excited to not be at our house anymore and be back with his teammates.
Yeah. I don't know. I hope they get the season in. You think they will?
Sounds like they're off and running. They're practicing like they are. So that's all I can do is focus on, practice we have tomorrow and his practice that he has.
Hey, Mike, listen, really appreciate you taking the time. I'll see you out there at your practice and look forward to it.
Okay, buddy. Keep doing a great job, Peter.
Take care, Mike. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.